It's recording.
It's recording.
All right.
All right. You making fun of my accent, boy?
A little bit.
A little.
Like a
Yeah.
hillbilly.
I really don't have that much of a southern accent, I don't think. But
No, you don't.
I really don't.
You
I
definitely have one, but
yeah, I used to have to exaggerate it when I was speaking to my mom, because she was really country. So you always knew I was talking to my mom because I talk like this, just because that was the cadence, that we communicated. And then I would
right.
go back to you and be like, "Well, hello, Dylan. How are thee? You know, how art thou today?" And then Mama, you want something to eat? It was interesting. People thought I was schizophrenic.
I have
Anywho,
to talk in a funny Jersey accent to some people.
say what now?
I have to talk in a funny Jersey accent to some people.
Joycey.
Jersey.
Yeah, I love
I'm
Jersey
from.
accents.
I'm
Dave
from.
kills me every time he calls me. He won't even be telling me a joke, and I'll be laughing because of his Jersey accent. You fucking
Yeah, I get that.
fucking. All right, so it's a popcorn politics is in the car. Super duper orgy
Yes, the
with
best kind of orgy.
finally the best kind of orgy. This time we get to do Picard, not Star Trek Picard. Picard, just Picard. And you just binge watched it, so
Yes, I
I
did.
think you should go first.
So I am not a Trekkie. Um,
Mhm.
I've watched a little bit of Star Trek. I've watched the Abrams movies. I've watched Star Trek Discovery. So I've watched all the maligned Star Trek by the new fans, and I've liked all of it. But
Yeah,
Picard was something special.
yeah.
Um, it everything I've heard about the original Star Trek, I felt in this show.
Mhm.
It felt like it had that original spirit that I understand from friends who are Trekkies like you.
Mhm. Yeah, and what's unfortunate about it is all the Star Trek fans are taking a dump on it, saying that it's anything but the original vision of Gene Roddenberry. And I'm like, what the fuck is wrong with you people?
It may not
Good.
be the original vision of Gene Roddenberry, but it is very true to what I know of the character of Picard. So if they liked the character of Picard, I don't understand why they don't like this.
Exactly, and this is like I think what jars people, which is what Patrick Stewart, he didn't warn people, but he softened the blow at Comic-Con when he announced Picard because he outright told us, he said, when he said that he was going to reclaim the role, that this was not going to be the Picard, in the Star Trek that people were familiar with. So when I heard that, I was like, okay, so they're going to try something different. Cool. I would like to see, you know, uh, what where Picard is 20 years after the events of Nemesis.
Hmm.
Because from the show, which you don't, and me and you discussed this in our attempted recording, but you don't need to watch the Next Generation or really any of the movies to get Picard.
No, I've never seen a single episode of The Next Generation. I've never seen any of the Next Generation movies. I was able to watch Picard. I was able to appreciate Picard, and any references they made to the original were there was context given for those
Yeah,
references, so I never felt like I was in the dark. But
right,
this
right.
this isn't a show that's, oh, look at this. This is from The Next Generation, guys. This isn't that at all.
No,
Um, this is very much its own thing.
very much its own thing. But I think what jarred a lot of people is one, people are so accustomed to Star Trek having like a starship. or even a space station that's Federation controlled. Star Trek is typically Federation centric. You know, there's always either the Enterprise or the Discovery or the Voyager or Deep Space Nine or whatever. And this actually is outside of the Federation. The Federation is in it, but it's outside of the realms of the Federation, which I
I
think is
mean,
perfect.
the Federation is almost an antagonist in this show.
Yeah, in the early parts, it's the antagonist of it. But it was like somebody said it. I think it might have been Jonathan Frakes. This is Picard as a swashbuckler, which
Yeah.
he's always wanted to be truly at heart a
Ma-
swashbuckler.
Hold on, I actually have a point to make there. Um, do you remember the part where he played the role of the pirate?
Are you talking about in the show?
Yes, in the show. He
Um.
had the eye patch on when he was giving Seven of
Oh
Nine
yeah, yeah.
over
When they go to
in
Cloud
exchange.
City or whatever it is.
Yeah, I think that's what Frakes might have been talking about because that is literally Picard as a swashbuckler.
It's literally as a swashbuckler. Yeah. But no, I mean, so I don't understand, what the big fuss is with other people complaining about it. I thought it was a love letter to every Star Trek fan, especially by the end of it. I thought it was a love letter. But
Yeah, I
you
mean,
know, go ahead.
sorry, the complaints I've always heard about the J.J. Abrams movies are that there are too many shootouts. It's too action-packed. Well, the final conflict of Picard is literally dealt with via words.
Pretty much, pretty much. We'll get to that one.
We will.
Um, but no, I thought this is what I thought. Okay, because I have watched all of the Next Generation, and of course, one of the main turning points in Picard's entire life is his assimilation into the Borg collective,
Mhm.
where even in the episode, the two episodes, it was called The Best of Both Worlds, Part One and Part Two. And when that cliffhanger happened, actually, that was like one of the first times that a season cliffhanger was like that. So it really blew a lot of people away. Where at the end of the Best of Both Worlds one, you see Locutus of Borg. He's been assimilated, and the season just fucking ends right there, and you're like, what? You you have to wait however many months for the season two to find out what happened, and then you get to Best of Both Worlds 2, and then of course the Battle of Wolf 359 and all that good stuff. And obviously we know that the crew of the Enterprise does liberate Picard from the collective as Locutus. And there's a scene in Best of Both Worlds, the last scene of Best of Both Worlds, Part 2, and I think it might have been Counselor Troy in Picard's ready room after they've gotten him out of the collective, and he's starting to regain his individuality, where Deanna comes to check on him, and then she leaves his ready room, and the camera is just Picard sitting alone at his desk, and you could see in his face that this has changed him irrevocably. And then it cuts to black. So you knew in the end of that episode something has changed. Like he's irrevocably changed. He's going to carry this with him and his experience for a long time. Well, when you get to First Contact, First Contact is the second movie in the Next Generation series, which is everybody loves that one. They think that's their favorite. But and it deals with the Borg going back in time, trying to stop First Contact, and us, meeting the Vulcans and whatever. But in the beginning of the movie, he's having a flashback within a flashback, and so you realize he's got PTSD from his experience with the Borg, right?
Mhm.
So in there's a core scene, and people can look it up, but it's Picard. You could look up in YouTube Picard's Anger, First Contact or whatever. But there's a brilliant scene, brilliant scene. As a matter of fact, pull it up right now, Dylan, and I want you to take a look at it, and I'll send you the link real quick. All right?
Yeah, Picard's Anger.
You found it?
That's what it's called, right?
I'm
Yep.
about to let you know.
Star Trek First Contact Picard's Anger. Hold on.
Give that a watch, and let me know when you hit play.
I'm about to hit play. That was really good.
That was really good. Wasn't that a powerful, like the way he delivered it? You could like feel that this dude, even though he's like a very distinguished captain, like he's been suppressing some fucking rage
Yeah,
for
but
6 years.
maybe it's just in the performance, but this feels like a different person. Even like I can see the person in there, but they feel different.
You mean Picard?
Yeah.
Right. And see, that's why I thought that the show was so wonderful, because this is kind of where you left off with Picard. I mean, with Picard's character, is that bubbling up of anger with the Borg and having to deal with, um, fighting back to the point of your own self-destruction. You know what I'm saying? And I've been there. Have you ever been there where you just, you fight to the point to where you become Captain Ahab if you let it eat you up like that, you
Yeah.
know? And thankfully he had somebody that would come along and say, "Look, you're acting like Captain Ahab, dude. You're better than this." So that one after this movie is Insurrection, and then the last one in the series is Nemesis. Well, if you watch Nemesis, um, obviously Data sacrifices himself for Picard in that movie on the Shinzon ship, the Scimitar. But if you watch that movie and that end scene, and I'll describe it a little bit. You could look it up later. But Picard's on the Scimitar. This Thalaron radiation generator is about to go off and kill everybody on the Enterprise, and Picard's got to stop it. But Shinzon, is much younger, much more agile, and he's going to win the fight. And then Data shows up and slaps an emergency transporter beacon on Picard's chest and says goodbye. And then Data blows up the ship with him on it. And the next scene that you see is Picard standing on the bridge of the Enterprise, and the crew looks back and they see him, and he's just frozen with trauma. So it's like you take all of his experience with the Borg and then bring it to First Contact where he actually has to face them again, and there's more trauma. And then you get to Nemesis where his best friend dies basically right in front of him. And you see him completely traumatized. And that is exactly where you left Picard. We haven't seen Picard since then. So when the show picks up, it's 20 years later, and he's a different man. This is a guy who has been sitting with this shit for 20 years, and he feels like he's wasting his life on a vineyard because he's retired from the Federation, or they gave him the outs or whatever it was, and he feels like his sense of purpose is no longer there because at least while he was the captain of the Enterprise, he had plenty of distractions from the shit going on inside of him. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So. But I thought, I mean, and the story that they were telling with the show is about a guy who is, it's been several years since the events of his trauma, but he still has to live with it, you know. Uh, and I thought it was a perfect setup. I thought it was a perfect story that only Star Trek could tell, really, you know. And I'm
Yeah.
glad they chose the character of Picard to tell that story because you think of Captain Picard as this strong, unwavering captain, and this show showed you that he is underneath a very good, gentle man. I mean, in this show he tells people that he loves them a lot. That never happened in the old shows. Never. Captain Picard would never show affection. But in this show, Picard, he is okay with showing people affection. You know,
Yeah, he shows affection a lot.
a
It
lot.
was it was almost a little jarring to see him so firm in that one scene.
Right, and that's how he typically was a stalwart. Uniform is always straight, very protocolish. And then when you get to Picard, I think that's another reason people were off put by it is because they were expecting the same kind of Captain Picard. It's like, yeah, but time changes people. Mm,
Time changes people, and trauma changes people. The death
trauma.
of someone close to you changes
Yep.
you.
Yep.
So
Yep.
you're
And
dealing with the death of Data,
mhm,
the trauma of the synth ban and the attack on Mars and the Romulan supernova,
mhm.
and you're dealing with 20 years passing.
And you're also dealing within that 20 years watching an institution that you believe in so very much and the ideals you believe in, you watch it become corrupted. And so, that's almost like, I could kind of put myself in Picard's shoes and go, shit, he spent his entire life in service of the Federation. And now in the beginning of this show, the Federation is corrupt as shit. And it's like, I can only imagine how disdainful that would be for him to know that his life's work
Yeah.
was spent towards an institution that become corrupted. You
Yeah.
know?
Yeah, it's a wonder he's not more jaded.
Right, yeah. And but yeah, I think like whenever I think Rafi, he was the first person he told he loved was Rafi. Oh, she said, "I love you," JL, which I hope they don't do that in season 2 for Christ's sakes. Don't call him JL. You know, but
Okay, that I didn't mind. I didn't like a lot about Rafi, but I didn't mind that.
yeah, I mean that bothered the shit out of me. I did, and we'll get to who needs to stay and who needs to go later.
Okay,
But
this is a question for you.
sure,
Was Rafi in the original?
no, she was not.
Okay, because they built her up as a character like we know.
No, no.
When they introduce her, you need someone who hates you and has nothing to lose. I know exactly who to call. It felt like they were building up to a character you had met before.
No, she wasn't in Next Generation. This is the first time she's appeared. You know, they're evidently their relationship formed after the events of Nemesis at some point. So, but no, this is the first time. And whenever she told him, she was like, "I love you, JL." And she says, "You don't have to say it back." And I was like, "Of course he's not going to say it back." And then he said it back, and I was like, "Oh, Picard's a softie," you know, on the inside. But yeah,
Yeah,
and the whole theme of dealing with the death of a friend or a death of a loved one when you had no closure is also like a driving thing. You know, I mean, the main plot of the story is, you know, Data has offspring. He has a daughter or two daughters, and Picard is desperately in my opinion and experience, he's trying to do by saving Soji is get closure with Data. You know, uh, in some way he feels, if I were to speculate, he feels that if he could save Soji, then in some way it's redemptive of the sacrifice that Data gave to save him. You know what I mean?
yeah.
Buddy, I know what that's like. So, it was the undertones of the show was very emotionally driven. It's not just some science fiction show where the pew pew pew. You know, it's very human, very very human, even though it's
Yeah,
out in space.
yeah, it's a human story.
Very human story. And of course, the overall the if we take it outside of the character of Picard, um, who unfortunately Patrick Stewart is starting to show his age, you know, which is heartbreaking. Uh, but he can only physically do so much in the show, so the other supporting cast had to do, you know, most of the action, as it were, which is understandable.
Oh, that's
Um,
fine. I mean, my image of Picard was never a great warrior.
no, but he's been capable before, and it stinks whenever you really really like somebody and then you see, you know, them move a little slower or shake a little bit more. um you know what I mean? It just sucks to see somebody age. Really, even yourself, it sucks to see aging, but
Yeah,
it's
I can agree with that.
part of life, I suppose.
Yeah.
but um but the other aspect of this, if you take it out, and I was talking to Kai Wong the other day about this, I said, listen, Star Trek has always been ahead of the curve in predicting things. Always. You know, you look around and you see all these smartphones and these tablets and these desktop computers and doors that open on them, you know, themselves. Dude, when I was watching Next Generation, that stuff was like that. We'll never have any of that
Well,
stuff.
I this is a question that is kind of never answered and never answerable. But is it art predicting life, or is it life imitating art?
You know, that's funny, and I could tell you a side story with Deep Space Nine if you like.
Um, I don't have too much longer left, so I do want to dive in more on Picard, but remind me and we'll go into that another time because I think
Yeah,
that's a fascinating discussion to have.
yeah. Ask me another time because I met Avery Brooks, the captain of Deep Space Nine,
I
and I asked him a
told
question.
me. I think you told me this story a couple years back.
Probably so, but I asked him the same question. I was like, dude, you know, Deep Space Nine predicted everything that was going to happen after 9/11, dude. Did you realize that? You know, it was like, so the question is life imitating art or is art predicting the future? I don't know. I mean, I think Gene Roddenberry certainly, and the writers of the original Star Trek certainly they were tapped into something, no doubt. Um, and that's what kind of creeps me out about Picard, because the other central theme is that we create artificial life becomes sentient, artificial life is then oppressed, and then an artificial life form or race outside of our dimension wants to come and fuck us up as
Yeah.
a result of what we do.
Yeah. And
And
we're dependent on our artificial intelligence's benevolence
right,
towards its oppressors.
right. So I look, when I looked at the show, and I was like, uh-oh, because dude, I am pretty sure, I think you and I have talked about this before, I'm pretty sure the internet's self-aware. Yeah, I'm pretty sure she is. And I'm not talking about the sophistication of algorithms when the advertisements on Facebook either. I think she's awake. And so I'm of the opinion that we have created artificial intelligence already. And now looking at Picard, it's like, uh-oh, this is a part of
Yeah.
this big Romulan mythos that once we do create artificial intelligence, we might be opening up a Pandora's box, you know?
Yeah.
So,
It's certainly possible. But I think the other central theme, and I mentioned this in in our failed recording, is broken people trying to find their identities again.
yeah, that was brilliant when you said it because I had not put it together that way. But yeah, when you do look at this show, like obviously it's not on a Federation ship, it's on the Le Sorrente, which like right, the Le Sorrente,
I
the
think
mermaid,
I think that's right.
right? Um, you're right. Every one of the crew are fucked up. They're all
Yeah.
fucked up.
I mean, you could do a psychological case study on Rios.
Yeah, Rios, and we had talked about this too. I said I thought it was very interesting because he's like, at first when Rios shows up, I thought he was like the Star Trek's version of Han Solo, and I was like, oh man, but he really does become his own character,
Uh,
in the first few episodes.
yeah, and I think this comparison might be off base now, considering what I just watched. But when I was watching Picard, I honestly thought he seems like a younger version of Picard. A little more fucked up, but a younger version nonetheless. I don't
Yeah, I mean,
I don't know if that's accurate now, um, but that's what I was thinking then.
I think he would have been a younger version of Picard, maybe when Picard was in Starfleet Academy. Because according to the mythos of Star Trek, when he was in Academy, he was wild. He was more like Captain Kirk. And then there was an event where he got stabbed in the back by a Nausicaan and had to get an artificial heart. And that is what completely changed him from being reckless and basically just going by the book for the rest of his life. So I could see Rios being a pre-stabbed in the heart Picard back in Starfleet Academy days.
Yeah, I mean, Rios and Soji really are the MVPs of the show.
They really are, and all of his holographic personalities.
Yeah, yeah,
Because I thought that was neat. The Le Sorrente has the emergency holograms and all that, and they're all different versions of him. And it's like he was given the option when he got the ship to make the holograms look different, but he didn't do it. He wanted them all to look like him. So it's like, was that some type of unconscious therapy that he was trying to do, by interacting with himself and different personalities? Maybe.
yeah. Um, no, honestly, when they introduced him, I thought, I don't know if I like this. By the end, he was my favorite character. He's
Yeah, Rios is cool. And he had the best line in the show when he's the Scottish engineer, and Rafi's trying to figure out why a species would put 8 suns together, and he goes, I don't know. Look what I can do. This shit was so funny to me.
It really is the delivery and the context because it's such a simple line, but delivery and context just elevate that scene.
Yeah, and you got to give him a hand, man, because he pulled off every one of those different versions of himself. Great,
Yeah, no,
you know.
I always bought each version, which I really appreciate.
Right,
Um,
and that's acting. So
yeah, that's acting.
yeah,
And I was a little disappointed when I finished because I thought this was going to be a limited series. And if that were to have been the case, there are some characters that I was really sad I wasn't going to get to see more of.
mm,
Rios, Soji, and rest in peace, Hugh. But since there's a second season, I'll at least get two of those characters a bit more.
Yep. You'll I don't want to speculate about season 2, but I'm hoping, man. I know that they're talking to Catherine Janeway's the actress Kate Mulgrew who plays Captain Janeway about coming back as her, and okay, I could dig it, but oh, dude, if I don't get me some Captain Sisko in season 2 of Picard, I'm gonna fucking write CBS a very strongly worded letter. Actually, a side note, do you know the first thing that I ever wrote that was ever published was in Star Trek magazine?
Really?
That is a fact. Yes, sir.
That
I sure
doesn't
did.
surprise me, but
Well, it shocked me. I wrote Star Trek magazine when I was like 14 or 15 in praise of Deep Space Nine, and everything that they were doing. And then I go and pick up the issue the next month. I totally didn't expect it, but yeah, they published my letter in the front, and I was like,
wow.
oh, that's fucking awesome. So
Yeah, that's pretty sweet.
yeah, technically, the first time I was published was in Star Trek. Now that I think about it, I think you're the first person that I've told that to in forever. We're best friends forever, Dylan.
Hooray.
Yay. I know. I mean, and so I like the idea of a ragtag crew. I like the idea of an underdog ship. You know, uh, I liked all that to put
So
Picard in that area.
so I feel like now is a good time to get to who should stay and who should go.
Who should stay for season 2 and who should go? First on the chopping block on my end is Rafi. Gotta go.
Yeah, gotta
Rafi.
go. Gotta go. In that whole theme of broken people finding their identities again, Rafi is the only one who, A, didn't complete her arc in a satisfying way, but B, had any potential for a satisfying conclusion ripped away.
Yeah. She was a means to an end to get to Rios.
She really was.
And,
And then they just
yeah,
kind of kept her around.
kind of, yeah. And so I don't think she's, unless they pull some killer ass writing out for her character in season 2, they're probably going to pull a Tasha Yar and get rid of her. Nothing against the actress, obviously,
No,
but she got to go.
the actress did well with the script she was given.
Yeah, she did. All right, who's got to go? Dylan, on your end.
She's my only firm has to go. I don't see any more utility in Alison Pill's character, Giardi.
Mm-hmm.
I don't see any more utility in her being around. She's a cool character, but her role in the story has kind of concluded.
Pretty much, yeah.
Um,
can go.
yeah. And then I'm 50-50 on Eleanor.
I think you should stick around for a while.
I
I think
I didn't.
I think there's some.
Yeah.
I think there's some cool stories. This was another thing with this show was we have always had a rich background story of the Vulcans, the Klingons, the Cardassians, the Bajorans, most of the canonical aliens races, but we never really knew that much about the Romulans, man. And in this show, it dives really deep into Romulan culture for the first time, like with the admonition and the secret order of women. What are they called? I don't know. You know what I'm talking about.
Blanking. I know what you're talking about. I'm blanking.
Yeah, we're used to seeing like the Tau Shiar from Romulus, and that's it. And that's all we knew about. But this new order that they bring up, it's like, oh, cool. We're getting into Romulan mythos. This is pretty cool. And the idea of the Romulan refugees who take a different philosophical path, where Elnor comes from,
Yeah.
which is more. Go ahead.
Yeah. So I didn't like Eleanor this season. I thought he was kind of wasted, but I actually agree. He should be kept. There's a lot of potential here, like you said, with the interesting mythos, but even the emotional story, unlike with Rafi, his story was never concluded.
Right. And hang on just a second.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I mean,
Oh,
it
again,
wasn't.
poetry read to you?
I'm getting texts, yes. But I have the subject. That subject is top secret. I'm not allowed to talk about it on podcasts. So I've agreed to this, and so I shall not. So there.
Edited around.
Yes, yes. Huh? Yeah, you can kill it. So yes, but no, Eleanor. I think that if they're going to stick around the Alpha Quadrant in season two, his character could become critical. Because you got to keep in mind, okay, like with Abrams's movies, okay, what they call the Kelvin timeline. Well, what spawns that timeline is the destruction of Romulus's star that goes supernova, and Spock's trying to stop it, and he, uses red matter to create a black hole, and then goes back in time. Well, these events in Picard are after the star goes supernova, and so the Romulans in this timeline are dispersed throughout the galaxy. So if they're going to get more into the Romulan culture, which I hope they do, because it seems so rich, especially after this first season, then Eldor is going to be a critical character.
Yes. So Elnor, even though I didn't like him this season, he should stick around because I think there's a lot of potential.
Yeah, yeah.
Um,
Not
eh,
not to mention he's the muscle of the group. Really, he's a badass with that sword.
yeah. Soji and Rios obviously stay. Um,
Yeah, Soji's got to stay.
so, Soji, I feel like, had the most potential to be bad
Hmm.
and lived up to all potential to be good. Like she could have easily been the weak point of the story. She could have been the MacGuffin, that bland character with no personality, and she was anything but.
Right, right. And one of the other cruxes that you mentioned last time we tried to record this was that the idea, which is so very Star Trek, that Picard put the fate of the galaxy and the fate of his own life in her hands to use her free will to choose good over
Yes,
fear,
he
right?
he put the fate of the universe on the line for the belief that the nature of all beings, even synthetic ones, are inherently good.
Yeah, and that you can have, and this kind of throws back to when we were talking about tarot cards and everything, and oracular devices. You know, you could have all kinds of prophecies that even they may even repeat over and over and over again, because I do think that prophecy is the major observation of cycles that do repeat. But I think it's like, okay, well, if the cycle's just going to keep repeating, what's the fucking point of the prophecy? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
What's the point? And I think that the only logical conclusion that you can come to is that there's a prophecy, it's like a red flag to let you know, hey, it doesn't have to repeat. With just a small change or a few small changes, you can break cycles. And Soji is the linchpin in this particular cycle because, according to the Romulan mythos, this has happened before. These artificial intelligences, they destroy anything that's organically alive. And it's
Yes.
happened before, and it's going to happen again. And up until the end of the show, it looks like it's going to happen again. That Soji is right there on the line of succumbing to fear, where she is going to be the destroyer. You know what I mean?
Mm.
And Picard, you know, he plays a hand of poker and bets that her free will is going to override that fear that perpetuates cycles of destruction. You know, so
Yeah, it's a very Star Trek-like ending.
hmm
Um, and it's a very Picard-like move. Everything I know about Picard says that's the move he would have made.
yeah, yeah, it was very true to the character.
Um,
Very, very true.
so another character that I actually think is probably underappreciated is the character of Narek,
Narek.
the Romulan spy.
Oh yeah, I dug the hell out of his character. I thought it was great.
Yeah, he I mean, it was obvious he was a spy from the beginning,
Right.
from the moment he was on screen. But he he was properly conflicted. I bought it the whole time.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah, he was.
if I had one complaint, and this goes to a lot of the show, this is my main complaint with the show. It's a decent one. Is a lot of movement, a lot of character movement, a lot of forward momentum in the show felt rushed. Like
Um,
um, the best example is actually Narek and Soji. That relationship, I bought it. It felt right, but it also felt fast.
yeah, it did. It was a little fast, but
Um,
you know,
same with the development with Rios and Giardi. Um, Same with Rafi's sort of back and forths. A lot of the character motivations that changed felt very quick.
yeah. But I mean, you're only dealing with what 10 episodes, you know?
Oh yeah, no, it makes sense to be paced this way for 10 episodes. I guess they maybe should have had more, but then the plot might have actually dragged.
Yeah, it would have. Because I thought the first 2 or 3 episodes before they actually go out into space, I actually thought it was. I was like, oh, okay, I know they're world building, but I wish they would pick it up a little bit. But when they did pick it up, holy shit, they picked it up.
Yeah, they
Man,
picked it up.
now 7.
Uh, yeah, 7 of 9 should stick around, but not be in the but not be in the crew.
Yeah, like I said last time, she could be a kitten. She can come and go.
Yeah,
Um,
she needs she cannot be there all the time.
mm-mm,
She's
no.
not the character for it. I'll admit I didn't love her in this season. She was fine. Um, but I think she's someone I would have appreciated more had I watched the original Star Trek.
Yeah, well, she's a different character here than she was on Voyager, um, which I love the fact that Jerry Ryan played her, as one would 20 years after the fact. People change. So I didn't want to see the same Seven, that I saw on Voyager, which is a newly liberated Borg. This one was way more human, you know, more, yeah, more human, not as stoic as she was, which is great because I love Jerry Ryan. I think she's just immaculate, that woman. But and the scene on the Borg cube where she jacks into the collective, and like I said last time, I was like, that was the big geek moment for me, man. It was like, oh shit, Seven is the new queen, buddy. Oh yeah, I loved it. I thought it
Yeah,
was awesome.
I what I appreciate though is that I didn't have any geek moments and I still loved the show.
Yeah, I mean, it's really good writing. I mean, it was really good writing. It was really well shot. The special effects were great. It didn't overshadow the story at all. The whole thing was just a wonderful presentation. Some of the
Yeah,
best
and we haven't even hit the elephant in the room.
data.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. That was something else because I'll tell. We'll go. This is all spoilers if nobody's caught it by now.
Oh, I feel like we've been giving spoilers away the whole time.
The whole time. Uh, so and this really tugged at me emotionally. Um, is the entire sequence at the end where Picard does die. I mean, and that scene was a tearjerker when he's laying there, around, and the crew is around him and he's dying. Now, I already knew, I was like, they're going to put him in the body of the golem.
Can,
You know what I
can
mean?
I throw a hot take out there?
Sure.
He should have died.
I, well,
I think
I don't
that
want to,
I think that would have been the perfect ending for him.
but, yeah, it would have. But we got to have another season, man. I mean,
Well,
the show's
no, we
the
should
show
have
is
had
called
another.
Picard,
We should have had another season. Pass the torch. Soji and Rios can take the show.
and call it Picard.
No, call it something else. Obviously.
Oh, well, I mean, ultimately, you know, sadly, Patrick Stewart's 80 years old, so there's only so many seasons we're going to get. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah.
So, which sucks to know, but it is what it is. But no, I mean, I knew that they were going to put him in the body of the golem,
So did I.
and whenever he shows up in the afterlife, as it were, with Data, that entire segment,
Was
that entire
masterful.
it was so. brilliant.
It was
And
masterful.
what's funny now? Think about this scene, okay? Because this is, I talk about my mom's passing with you, and that was, a couple years ago. Well, what we would do since she was bedbound is we would binge watch Star Trek, and her favorite character was Data. Her absolute favorite. When I had went to Dragon Con the first time, I'd got an autograph. I met Brent Spiner and got an autograph for my mom from him, and she was just tickled to death, because she loved Data. And the last show that me and my mom binge watched together was The Next Generation, right? So, and literally it was like 2 nights after we finished the very last episode is when my mom left. Literally. It might have been one night, as a matter of fact. So, for me, take that personal experience with the character of Data and Star Trek, and then overlay it on the very ending scene where Picard and Data are in that room, and Data says, I want you to terminate my existence. I want to know that life, whatever it is, however short it is finite. It's not that I want to die, but I want to know that my life has meaning in the finite. And he makes that statement where he says, a butterfly that lives forever is not a butterfly at all. Now, to me, when I watched that last episode, having the emotional backstory to it, you don't think I was blubbering like a little bitch. Because, dude, when Data ages and then fades away into dust, I started crying my eyes out because I knew whoever wrote that scene had to have been in similar situations with somebody that they loved. You know what I mean?
Dude, I don't even have like again, never watched Next Generation, never watched any of it. I don't have any emotional connection to the character of Data, but man, I got a chill up my spine during that scene. It was hard to watch even as somebody who doesn't really give a shit about Data.
Yeah. Well, and some people thought that it was a rectification of how they killed him in Nemesis, which I mean I was okay with the way he died in Nemesis, whatever. But this was, if you were going to bring him back and then take him away again, this was the better way to do it than they did in Nemesis. Um,
Yeah. Um Honestly, I think my favorite Data moment though is at the beginning in the first episode. Do you want to finish the painting, Captain?
yeah,
I don't want it to be over.
yeah. I don't want the game to be over.
It's a great opening.
Yeah.
It really set the tone well, and the entire emotional through line with Data honestly was thematic and narrative perfection.
Yeah, it was. And Brent Spiner is a genius. I love the way he plays Data, but I love the way he also plays all the different Dr. Sungs. Throughout the shows, he's played
Yeah.
Dr. Sung in every incarnation. Uh, Not to mention, as a person, Brent Spiner is in the brief amount of time that I interacted with him, he's just a stand-up guy. He's a real cool guy. Um, a lot of those guys are. They really are, that's nice. They're really, whenever you actually meet those guys, they're very grateful for their fans. They really are. Like they know we love this stuff so much, and they are able to live the life that they live because of it. And so most of them really are really down to earth people. And the one who was the most down to earth was Scott Bakula, who plays Captain Archer in Enterprise. He was just the salt of the earth. That guy. He's a great guy. But Brent Spiner was cool. He was a cool guy. Now at first it shunted me because I went to go shake his hand, and he says, I'll fist bump you, and I was like put off a little bit by that. And then later I'd heard in an interview where he said that when he was first started doing conventions, it was Leonard Nimoy or somebody, he asked him for advice, and they said, one, keep hand sanitizer with you when you go to these conventions, and two, don't shake hands, bump fists, because germs. You know what I mean? Now it's more prevalent. But
Yeah.
when I saw the interview, I was like, oh, that's why Brent Spiner wouldn't shake my hand. It wasn't like a cocky thing. It was just like a thing, which makes sense.
Yeah. No, that makes perfect sense.
But
No, the Data story was great. Even though I literally have no emotional connection to it, it was powerful.
yeah, yeah, and I thought it was a brilliant, touching. Like I said, the ending was it was a love letter. And as they're, you know, um, disconnecting Data's consciousness when they start to play Blue Skies, sang by the actress who who plays Soji actually brilliantly. I thought that was an excellent touch because the song Blue Skies and Data go hand in hand, you know? So that for them to play that on a record was just, it was like, oh, it rips your heart out, man. You know,
Yeah.
it rips your
No,
heart
it
out.
was great stuff.
It was great science fiction. It was great writing. It was a great human story. And of course, the best the best way that it could have possibly ended is, I think it was the first time in this show where you get to hear him say engage, and the show like warps out. You're like, fuck yeah, he said it. He said engage, you know. I thought that was a great way to cue it out. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that was. I, I don't know where they want to go with this next, but if this if this was all I was going to get, I would have been a little bit disappointed, but I would have been satisfied.
Well, from all the scuttlebutt that I've heard, I know Guinan, Whoopi Goldberg's character, is supposed to be coming back for the next season, which is awesome. I know they're talking to Kate Mulgrew of Voyager. Um, I know, let's see, who else? There's no telling. But this is a wonderful opportunity for them to mix Voyager, Next Generation, and Deep Space Nine in
Uh,
one world.
by the way, I gotta go in a second, but can I just say Jonathan Frakes was great.
Yeah, he never fails.
It
Jonathan
was
Frakes never fails.
so good to see him back as Riker.
Yeah, and when they showed him all scrubby on Nefente with Marina Sirtis or Deanna Troy, when they show him all scrubby and scruffy looking, you're like, what the fuck? But then the last episode, when he shows up with the fleet, he's all sharp in his uniform and shit. You're like, oh, okay, there's Riker.
See, I can't wait to use this.
Yeah, yeah, dude. He's like, I'd be more than happy to kick your Romulan ass back to back to the neutral zone or whatever it was he said. But yeah, Jonathan Frakes is awesome, man. He's an awesome director too. You know,
Really?
he
Yeah.
yeah he's directed most of the best Star Trek ever. So. But yeah, dude, you got to run in a second. I think we pretty much covered the entire series in 54 minutes.
Yeah, we did good here.
I think so.
Again, we spoiled most of it, but seriously, watch this.
Yeah,
It's really, really good science fiction, even if you're not a Star Trek fan like me.
yeah. You don't have to have any you don't have to have any of the backstory to enjoy this for what it is. I mean, it's like a 10-hour movie, really, but it's very well done, very well written. Patrick Stewart has never been better at his craft than he is in this. You know, honestly, this is his best shit. I
I
mean, he
don't
did,
know. I don't know, dude. His Professor X is something.
yeah, he did pretty good in Logan, but maybe it's just because the character of Picard carries so much history with me. Uh,
Yeah, I don't know. It's either this or Logan. Logan was some of his best work.
Logan was pretty damn good. So and when he chose to do an aging Professor Xavier, I was like, oh, that's awesome. And then when he said now he's going to do an aging Picard, I was like, that's even awesomer. So
But no, I'm curious where they're gonna go from here. But even if the next season sucks, this season stands alone and is brilliant.
yeah, it is. And I think if they stick with the formula that they're going with, which is anything goes really, then they'll be all right.
Give give me more Rios and Soji, or I'm gonna be real upset though.
Yeah, the only thing I gotta say is I better get me some Captain Cisco in season 2, dude. I gotta see Deep Space Nine and what's been up. Yeah, because
I
that was
don't
my
I don't need any nostalgia. Just give me more of what I got this season, and I'll be happy.
right, right. All right, man. You want to final thoughts on it?
Uh, Final thoughts. Go watch it. It's a really deep story.
Yeah, it's good storytelling for sure. Which even if it didn't have Star Trek attached to it, it's really good storytelling, and it's good escapism from what's going on outside the window right now. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Because and like I've said to you before, when Patrick Stewart said, he said, the world needs Star Trek right now, and this show is a testament to that in light of the chaos that we do see going on in the world right now. It's like, yeah, we really do need Star Trek right now because
Yeah.
it helped humanity get out of a slump in the 70s, um, ideologically about a lot of different things.
Yeah.
and I think it can do it again. And some people who are like, oh, it's just a show. Like, no, it's philosophy hidden.
Entertain
Yeah,
Entertainment is what you take from it.
right, right.